The Sixers flat out curb stomped, demolished, destroyed. I don't know how many more adjectives I can add there to the Detroit Pistons last night. Eagles, coaching carousel conversation that's been going on for the last 24 hours or so, with a lot of our coaches getting interviews for other teams. Now that's the what happens when you're a good team. The WWE sold the Saudi Arabia Crown Prince investment firm. It's really interesting right there. A lot to dive into today on Trending in the AM. Let's make sure I play the right intro today. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front. Embiid,
and Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Make sure you do me that favor. Hit that like button, that subscribe button, turn notifications on the DSM Media YouTube page. The last 2 days, we've gotten up to 707 subscribers. We'd greatly appreciate that number to continue to rise. Actually, it dropped to 706. Because somebody, probably a bot or something like that, unsubscribed last night while we were sleeping. But greatly do me that favor. Head over to the YouTube page, like, subscribe. More people that subscribe, the more people that watch there and hit the like button and drop their comments on YouTube. Helps the algorithm grow. I'm your host, Phil Steichen, here every morning on Trending in the AM. And we got lots to talk about today. I really wasn't sure exactly how the conversation would go this morning. Every morning, I'm always trying to come up with different topics to talk about, try to keep it fresh. Not the same thing. Obviously, we do our game recaps and talk about whatever games happened the night before. So we've got the Sixers romping, routing, drive-by. You know, it was just a bloodbath in South Philly last night. I think that's the best way to say it. Bloodbath in Philly. So we're going to recap that game a little bit today and just talk about should the Eastern Conference start to fear the Sixers now that they're on a 13-3 run. I've started talking about it a little bit on this show. Obviously, when the Eagles are winning, most common thing that happens when your team starts to win, you start to lose some of your assistant coaches. And obviously, Shane Steichen and Jonathon Gannon are being lined up for a lot of interviews this week for a lot of coaching openings across the NFL. Nick Sirianni was, asked about that. And he said he's got a plan. I'm curious what his plan is. We're going to dive into what his plan should be. A random topic that just popped up, not random, but an important topic that I just saw floating around the Twitter. I put a tweet out about it. Jalen Hurts and shoulder and why Nick Sirianni painted a bigger target than was already on his shoulder. We're going to talk about that. And there's not a lot of information out. It's not even been officially confirmed, but I think we'll close the show talking a little bit about the WWE. I mean, we are a sports network here. We're a media network. And the WWE, the biggest entertainment company in the world, global company, may have sold to the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince investment firm. Same people that run the Live Golf Tour, which I'm strongly and stoutly against. So let's dive right into it. Sixers last night. And guys, drop your comments in the comments section as you watch, as you check it out and like and stuff like that. If you're watching on Twitter, I can't see your comments. You got to head over to Facebook or YouTube for me to see your comments. But let's dive right into it. The Sixers last night, like I said, bloodbath in South Philly. 147 to 116. They literally, the Sixers, Doc Rivers was able to pull his starting five. I think it was 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third quarter. And no starters had to play the rest of the game. The end of the third quarter or the entire fourth quarter. That's just insane. I mean, I had to turn the game off at about that point because I was getting ready for Fairway to Heaven, my golf podcast. And they were up like 41 points at one time there in the third quarter. It was just a straight demolition. And what's surprising is, I'll be honest, I was a little surprised at how well they played last night. I know Detroit's a terrible team, and they're short. They're not just a bad team in the beginning parts of a rebuild. Detroit also is missing their top star around that rebuild in Cade Cunningham, amongst other players. Bogdanovich, I believe, is out as well. So they're shorthanded and they're a bad team. But last night, they put it up at the beginning of the game, and I can't believe it's been this long. I mean, we're now tomorrow night's game against Oklahoma City Thunder, I believe, puts the Sixers at the halfway point. Yeah, that'll be their 41st game of the season. Halfway point of the season. And we have not seen our starting five till last night since October 29th. That's over 2 months, almost 2.5 months. We haven't had our original starting five, our projected starting five, on the court together at the same time. And John Bede's just coming back from a short little, missed a few games in a row. PJ Tucker has just come back from missing some games. Maxi's still trying to find his shot completely. And the doctor called and said, hey, here's Detroit. It's the best form of medicine for a team that hasn't played together. Go out there and take care of business. And look, there were a million excuses for this team last night not to lose the game, but to let it be a competitive game. We've seen the Sixers team before in this story before. They go against a lesser opponent and they play down to their opponents. They didn't do that last night. I mean, Joel Embiid. I mean, what is there to say about the man? The man's pretty darn good at basketball. He only had to play 24 minutes in his first game back last night. But in that 24 minutes, he was able to score 36 points and 11 rebounds, get a couple block shots. He had 1 assist last night. Should have been more. There was some really good ball movement going on in the first 3 quarters that I saw. 36 points in 24 minutes. I don't know what else there is to say other than that. I mean, James Harden played 26 minutes, had a triple-double, 16, 15, and 12. A couple steals. The steals that James Harden gets is very underrated, underappreciated. Tyrese Maxey had 16, still missing a couple shots there. Tobias Harris had 14. And then it was all the bench after that. Even PJ Tucker knocked down a couple threes last night. No one of the starters played more. Tobias Harris led the way with 27 minutes. So what I'm getting at is the fact that you could go 2.5 months without playing together as a whole unit and then come out last night and play that dominating for 3 quarters. And it was pretty dominating. I mean, you go the fourth quarter, and I mean, Jaden Springer had 9 plus minutes last night. Daniel House had 10 minutes. I mean, you really emptied the bench out for the entire fourth quarter. And you were able to hold that lead. I mean, that would have been a situation where you could have seen, like the last game against Detroit. They had a 20-something point lead. It ended up being a 12-point win. The bench guys came in and lost the lead a little bit. Not lost the lead, but lost the cushion a little bit. That would have been a possibility. But everyone played last night. Everybody played well last night. And there's not one thing to complain about. Now, I was thinking that today's top story would have been Joel Embiid's new haircut. I don't know if I've ever seen him with the dreads before. He's always got the fro going. And I thought that was going to be the joke. That was going to be the story. Joel's haircut's a bigger story than the Sixers game. But no. And I've seen some people. I saw a tweet this morning while I was having breakfast. And it was somebody saying, I'm paraphrasing it because I don't want to, shout this person out. I think they're just looking for clicks. I don't know. Not somebody I follow either. But they basically said that we're all falling into the trap again. And maybe we are. Maybe we are falling into the Sixers trap. Because it's not like we haven't been here before where they look super dominating and then something happens and they fall apart. But if you have to be critical at this point, they are now 13-3 in their last 16 games. Should win against Oklahoma City, which OKC's an improved team. I mean, they're missing their top overall draft pick. That skinny dude, I forget his name now. But they're still playing well. They're not good yet. They're not a playoff team yet, but they're close. And they're building in the right direction there in OKC. So it won't be a Detroit-level pushover. But if they should win, that would put them at 14-3 in 17 games. How you cannot feel positive about this Sixers team at this point is beyond me. I mean, they're taking care of business. We said it back in December that this stretch right here, this month-long stretch from mid-December till this West Coast trip next week, which even the West Coast trip isn't as difficult as a typical West Coast trip. We talked about it, how this was the easy stretch of the schedule. You don't see the Bucks for a month. You don't see the Celtics for a while. You don't see a lot of those super good teams, those top teams. Perfect opportunity to get healthy. Perfect opportunity to get the rhythm and the flow back of this team. And that's what they've done. I mean, you think about it. They've gone 13-3 in the last 16 games. Joel's missed a bunch of those games. Maxey missed a bunch of the beginning end of it. PJ Tucker's missed a bunch of those games. I think even Tobias Harris missed a game along there somewhere. I mean, so they've been able to not just tread water while they got healthy. They were able to increase their, standings. I mean, last night's win, bumped them up to the number 4 seed. They are now tied with Cleveland in the 4 seed. Right now, they hold the tiebreaker. They are the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They went from being 6th, 7th, 8th in the conference in a very good top-heavy conference. It's very hard to make ground up in the Eastern Conference because you got the Bucks, the Celtics, and the red-hot Nets, who it's hard to make up ground on those guys. But they have. They're only 3.5 games out of the number 1 seed right now. So with all the injuries, with all the issues this team has had, this easy stretch, they've been able to do better than tread water. They've been able to make up ground, and now you're healthy. It all seems like everybody's healthy. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a reason why Joel won't play on Thursday night. We won't have the same starting 5 again for a second game in a row. Like I said, we haven't had the same starting 5, the original starting 5, since October 29th. So anybody out there, look, I'm one of the biggest critics of the Sixers team. I'm on the I'm one of the captains, the drivers of the Fire Doc Rivers fan base. But even I can't say right now that even if they go 3-13, there's no fire in Doc Rivers now. Doc Rivers is finding a way to get this team to win, despite his poor rotations. I mean, again, last night, Matisse, again, even when you empty out the entire bench and don't play starters for 15 minutes of game action, Tobias Harris still managed, 10 minutes? Or not, Matisse Thybulle, 10 minutes, had 4 points, assist, a rebound, a steal, a block. Typical Matisse. Actually, he was a minus 16 last night. We win by 31. And he was a minus 16. I'm not sure how that's even possible. How is that possible, Matisse? I mean, he had that great save. He had the steal. It went out of bounds. He grabbed it, threw it back in. I still can't get over Doc's lack of Matisse usage. But honestly, why am I even complaining about it? I mean, Scotty does great Sixers pregame lives right here on DSM Media every single Sixers game. Make sure you turn the notifications on and subscribe to the DSM Media YouTube page, because the Sixers pregame shows are only there. They're not on Twitter. They're not on Facebook or Twitch or anything like that. And I put in the comment section of the show last night, I need Matisse to get more burn. And Scotty's like, I don't know. Certain matchups. He should get the burns, certain matchups. And he agreed that he should have gotten more time against the Bulls when he didn't. But Doc's lack of use of him, I mean, I'll agree. It's a waste of Matisse Thybulle at this point. You can't trade him now. He's got next to no value. I mean, he's got some value, but his value is dropping. If you're not going to use him, you might as well. He's a restricted free agent after the season. You're not going to be paying him. We just had this conversation yesterday. So then another game goes by last night where he doesn't even get run or much run with the scrubs at the end of the game. I'm not sure what he has done to fall out of favor with Doc Rivers. But when you can't even get regular run with the scrubs at the end of a game, that's telling me something right there. That's telling me that you're doing something wrong in between games, at practice, whatever it may be. I don't know. I don't know the answer. But Doc's got to, or Daryl Morey's got to figure something out there, because you're going to need to improve this bench a little bit more. You're going to have to make some minor moves, and you got to at least you got to try to find some value in him, even if it's for a draft pick or a young, controllable player that's got some upside. I don't know, but it's got to happen because it's unfortunate. But again, there's nothing to complain about here. I really have no complaints about the Sixers, and it's crazy because I've been so critical of the Sixers team for so long that I don't even know how to act right now. I mean, again, last night. And they like I said, they straight dominated the Pistons last night, and they still didn't play perfect basketball last night. Like I said, Tyrese Maxey, 1 of 4 from deep. You had 18 turnovers. 18 turnovers. That's sloppy play. Now, some of those were from some bench guys. Let's see here. Milton had 1. Montrezl Harrell had 3. Actually, it wasn't even the guys I thought. I was thinking that, Jaden Springer would have had a couple. Even Jaden Springer got in there for 9 minutes last night. Now, I got to go back and watch the Jaden Springer highlights. I think Jaden Springer is a tradable asset, but he had 10 points. He knocked down a couple free throws. He knocked down 4 shots, grabbed a couple rebounds, an assist, a steal. Even he got 9 good, solid minutes of play last night. So, like I said, there's literally nothing to complain about at this point. And I don't know how to act because I'm so used to complaining about this Sixers team. So the real question really comes, and I'm getting off the box score and I'm bringing up the schedule and the standings for the Sixers. Like I said, they're in the 4 seat now. Should the Eastern Conference be scared of this Sixers team? Should the Celtics, the Bucks, the Nets, even the Cavaliers, because like I said, even though we're tied with them, we've got the tiebreaker, so we're ahead of them in the standings right now. Should these teams ahead of us in the Eastern Conference start to fear the fact that the Sixers are getting healthy and getting better? And I'm not sure what the answer is. Do the Celtics, the Celtics have had our number for a decade, it feels like now. Should they be scared of the Sixers and the run they're starting to go on here? Like I brought it up yesterday. You got OKC Thursday. Then you go 5 games West Coast trip. Utah, falling apart. It's a great game to watch, even though it's a later game, because you'll have, there's potential trade partners there, tradable players there on Utah. Then you got the Lakers, who are always a train wreck right now. Not sure when Anthony Davis will be back. The Clippers are a very good team. Portland, a good team, but a team that never really lives up to expectations. And Sacramento. But then you really get a stretch. Then you got Brooklyn, you got Denver, some Orlando games, but then you start to get into, there's a stretch where there's Boston, New York, Brooklyn, you got a Cleveland, Memphis, Boston, Miami, Dallas, Milwaukee. Wow, that stretch right there. Starting February 15th, home against Cleveland. You got Cleveland, Memphis, Boston, Miami, Dallas, Milwaukee, Indy, Minnesota, Portland. So that's from February 15th to March 10th. Dude, there's a tough stretch there. So I guess the answer to my question, should the Eastern Conference or the NBA be scared of the Sixers at this point, I guess it's kind of hard to tell until we get to that tougher stretch. Because this good run we're on, now we might lose a couple games on this West Coast trip. I would never expect any Eastern Conference, East Coast team to go to the West Coast and be 4-1 or 5-0 on a stretch. It's just not, it's asking a lot. Now, can they go 3-2? Possibly. They definitely will go 2-3. They should beat Utah. They'll lose one of the Utah Lakers games because it's a back-to-back. They basically got 3 games in 4 days there. They should go 2-3 at least. Could go 3-2. They could beat Utah, the Clippers, say Sacramento. They win the first, third, and fifth of those games. Why not? And that would be a successful road trip right there. But the problem is the trade deadline comes, and then you've got this tough stretch. I don't know if we're truly going to know who this team is until we get into March after that extremely, extremely tough schedule. I'm going to look at that schedule again. I'm going to really break it down a little bit more on Twitter. Cue up, follow me on Twitter. There we go. At Bearded Knowledge. It's hard to answer my own question of should the Eastern Conference be scared of the Sixers when we don't really truly know. One great game last night with our starting 5 back. One dominating performance. A dominating couple-week stretch with pieces coming in and out of the lineup against easier opponents. I think the answer to my question, should the Eastern Conference be scared, is answerable this way. The Bucks, the Celtics, the Nets aren't scared of the Sixers, but they're concerned. And they're keeping a little eye. They're keeping a little eye. They're doing something there. We won't know if they're for real till we play them, but we got to keep an eye on them. So they're not necessarily scared of the Sixers yet, but they're worried and concerned because let's be honest. As long as Joel Embiid is healthy, James Harden is playing at the best basketball he's played in 3-4 years. Maybe not 4 years, maybe 2 or 3 years. Tyrese Maxey, once he gets his confidence back, this is a scary team. And they've unlocked something with Montrezl Harrell where maybe you don't need 38, 39 minutes a game from Joel Embiid. And you can properly rest him at the right moments. You could get 12 minutes out of Harrell every night now. Finally found his footing with this Sixers team. All I did was when Joel was hurt. But he played pretty well last night. So I think that's my question. The easiest answer is scared, no. Concerned and keeping a waiting eye on them, yes, for sure. Because if they keep building this confidence, if they build this confidence right away, if they go 4-1 on this West Coast trip, and then come back and win a few more games here and there, and then get to that tough stretch mid-February through the end of the year, or end of mid-February, mid-March, if their confidence is riding high and everybody's healthy, there's no reason to, in a single game in the regular season, the Sixers can't be beating the Bucks and the Celtics and these better teams. I really think that the Sixers have found something here. And like I said, to go back to that tweet that I heard about earlier, I don't think we're having blind faith and we're setting ourselves up for disaster. We're just enjoying a really great run right now. And they are a great run right now. So that being said, I think we're going to wrap the Sixers talk up for the day there because there's so much on the agenda here today. And I want to get to some Eagles conversation. Then we'll get to the AFC playoff bracket, and then of course to close the show, some WWE talk. Again, drop your comments, on all these topics, or send me messages on Twitter, whatever it may be. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. So the topics come up, and Nick Sirianni spoke to the media yesterday, and he was asked about Shane Steichen, Jonathon Gannon, and obviously these guys are hot coaching, candidates, I guess is the word to say, commodities. There's 5 coaching openings right now. There might be more. I was trying to think yesterday on the show, who else? I can't believe Washington hasn't fired Ron Rivera yet, or he stepped down. So there might be 2 or 3 more openings becoming available. Now, the question is, will these guys get head coaching jobs? Jonathon Gannon was on the interview circuit last year. He did not get a job, but the odds are he'll probably get a job this year. I saw an interesting stat yesterday. Excuse me for a second. I saw an interesting stat yesterday on Twitter that Jonathon Gannon's got more top 10 defenses in 2 years than, or top 15, whatever it was, than Buddy Ryan had in just 5 years with Reggie White and all those great guys. I thought it was crazy, but the stats were there. Whether it was Reuben Frank or Rob Kuhn, one of those guys, one of those beat reporters put that out there. And it was insane. So Jonathon Gannon probably is the leader in the clubhouse to get a head coaching job out of the 2. But Shane Steichen is going to get a lot of interviews, and there's a strong chance he gets a job. When you go 14-3 and you're a Super Bowl favorite, you're going to lose coaches. It's just part of the NFL. The teams are going to look at the best teams and try to poach their assistants and think that they're going to bring that winning culture to them. It doesn't always work out. We've seen that many of times. It does not always work out. But that's kind of the route teams take. So Nick Sirianni was pretty clear yesterday saying he's got a plan and an idea or a theory or a thread of what he'll do if he loses one or both of those guys. Now, I know if we lose Shane Steichen, everyone's going to say Frank Reich. They want Frank Reich here. And I said it yesterday. Well, I said it a couple days ago. I'll say it again. He's not my top choice to take over for Shane Steichen if he leaves. It's Brian Johnson. I was Google searching today to see if he was getting any interviews for OC jobs or anything else anywhere else this week. Couldn't really find anything, but I did see a report a couple days ago of maybe him going back to the college ranks as a head coach. Now, I think a lot of teams, pros and in college, are looking at this Eagles team and seeing what's happened to Jalen Hurts. Obviously, I was on the pro Jalen Hurts bandwagon last year. I said intangibles, an average quarterback could win, and his intangibles were going to make him a better quarterback this year because of the work ethic he puts in. That being said, teams are going to see that. The jump he took from 2021 to 2022. How much better of a thrower of the football, how much better at reading defenses, how much better at making the right moves and checkdowns and stuff like that. Yeah, he ran the ball for 700 plus yards. I get that. He also threw for 3,700 yards, threw over 20 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over much at all. Teams are going to see that, and they're going to be like, who has helped make him that guy? Nick Sirianni, obviously, Shane Steichen, who's going to get an NFL head coaching job, and Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach, who has a connection since high school with Jalen Hurts. So the question remains, should Brian Johnson be the next offensive coordinator here in Philadelphia if Shane Steichen goes? And I still put him at the top of the list. And if we don't make him that offensive coordinator, in my mind, there's a strong chance he is going to get that opportunity elsewhere, whether it's in college or in the pros. He's ready now. He's been the quarterback coach here for 2 years. he's ready to take that next step. Every young coach, he's 36, I believe I read. Every young coach wants to progress that career always. They don't want to just stay. That's why Deuce Staley got so frustrated here. He just stayed as a running back coach for 8,000 years. He wanted more. Now, he's still not getting more, but he wanted more. Somebody's going to poach him. And quite frankly, I'd rather keep him, promote him to OC, than lose him at this point. I mean, honestly, he'll be an OC somewhere. He might get a chance at a head coaching. I don't know. We'll have to see how he handles the OC role. But that would be my top choice to replace Shane Steichen over Frank Reich. And honestly, he would probably not. Frank Reich would probably be my third choice. And I'm sure that Nick Sirianni, when he says he's got a plan, I'm sure Brian Johnson's part of the plan, and I'm sure Frank Reich's part of the plan. But I would probably consider looking outside the organization after Brian Johnson. I don't know. Look around the NFL. Look at some of these quarterback coaches. We lose our quarterback coach to an offensive coordinator job somewhere. Well, let's look at all the other offensive coordinators. Who's the quarterback coach in San Francisco that's got Brock Purdy playing like people like to compare him to Tom Brady? Total BS, but whatever. Look around the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, who's the quarterback coach right now down in Jacksonville? It's probably one of the guys that used to already coach on the Eagles. But Trevor Lawrence has taken a big jump this year. Who's the quarterback coach at Cincinnati that's helping make Joe Burrow into one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL? That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking for the next young guy. Coaching, in my mind, I think the old timers, for the most part, it's a young man's game coaching in the NFL now. And I really think they need to do that. I really think they need to look at that. Now, and if that doesn't work out, then you go to Frank Reich for a year or two. You see how that works out there. On the defensive side of the ball, you lose Jonathon Gannon. It's another thing where I say you look young. I know people are going to say Vic Fangio, who's been here, but I just don't know if I want an old timer that's been around the block 100 times, has succeeded and failed. When we hired Nick Sirianni, when we moved on from Doug Peterson, one of the guys I mentioned when I was on a previous network that I wanted as our defensive coordinator was D'Amico Ryan, defensive coordinator of the 49ers now. He was their linebackers coach. And it got me thinking today when I was like, who would I want? And I don't have the answer of who I want. I don't even know who the Eagles linebacker coach is. I didn't even look it up. I could, I guess. Here, let me Google search that. Eagles linebacker coach. Who's the linebacker coach of the Eagles right now? Rollis. It just says Rollis. I don't even know how to. Here we go. Eagles coaching roster. Defensive coordinator, passing game coordinator, running backs, defensive passing game, tight ends, linebacker coach, Nick Rollis. Yeah, I don't know who he is. But he's got TJ Edwards playing at a all-pro level. I think TJ Edwards made the PFF, which you take their grades with a grain of salt. He made their PFF all-pro team 1 this year. So maybe he's an option. For some reason, I just got this image in my head that a lot of linebackers have made good defensive coordinators and head coaches in the NFL. Mike Singletary, obviously. D'Amico Ryan is a hot shot. He's shooting straight up the coaching ranks. I want somebody young, energy, fresh ideas. I know I saw people tweeting that they want Lovie Smith back as a defense, not back because I don't know if he was ever here, but they want Lovie Smith as the defensive coordinator. Guys, why would we do that? Why would we keep bringing in retreads? And I just don't think that's the answer. Thank good. The one name that I really was interested in, and I don't think he'll be available. He's going to get a head coaching or a defensive coordinator position somewhere this offseason. I know he's already interviewed for both positions with other teams. I read a report before the show that he interviewed with the Browns for their defensive coordinator position, and he's in the top 3 candidates of a couple teams, and that's Brian Flores, who got such a raw bad deal. And we had some of our most highest viewed shows when we talked about that whole Miami Dolphins fiasco last year and covered all that race situation and issues down there in Miami. Brian Flores would be a great defensive coordinator. He did great with Pittsburgh this year. I believe he was a linebackers coach, actually. Co-figure. I'm talking about linebackers as making great coaches, and there's Brian Flores, linebacker coach of the Pittsburgh, one of the top candidates across a lot of teams' boards. He's going to be well sought out as well. But I would love to see Brian Flores. honestly, that would probably be my number one choice. Again, Frank Reich would be my number 3 choice because of his reputation for the offense coordinator. Vic Fangio would probably be 3. One would be Brian Flores. We're not going to get him probably. He'll either by the time that our season's done and we lose Jonathon Gannon, Brian Flores is already gone. He's already signed somewhere. So you lose your coaches and your assistants when you're good. The problem is when you make a deep run, you also are behind the 8 ball in filling out the next year's coaching staff. So that's kind of a problem. Someone like him, he'll be gone by the time we need to replace Jonathon Gannon if we do. And let's be honest, if neither of these guys or one of them doesn't get a head coaching job elsewhere, if you're calling for these guys to get fired, you're nuts. I know I've criticized Jonathon Gannon. It's kind of like Jonathon Gannon's like Doc Rivers to me. I've criticized him so much, and today I just said, all right, time to pump the brakes. Time for me to back off a little bit. It's time for us to back off on Jonathon Gannon. He's got a top 5 defense this year. It's like a top 15 defense last year. Top 10 scoring defense. We don't like his system. We don't like his schemes. We don't like the big plays he gives up. But the end results seem to work. So maybe Jonathon Gannon's not as bad of a defensive coordinator as we like to give him the flack for. So if he doesn't get a head coaching job, he stays, and I'm fine with that. Same thing with Shane Steichen. If this offense is one of the highest scoring offenses in the football this year, if he doesn't get a head coaching job, we're not moving on from him. There's no reason to. So it's an interesting conversation, and we'll see it as it unfolds over the coming weeks as these guys get interviews, as job openings start to fill, as more job openings start to open up. We'll see how it plays out. But I really think it comes down to that coaching is a young man's game now. I don't want 60, 70-year-old guys, on the sidelines just because they bring experience, obviously, but they also bring that old school philosophy that maybe just doesn't translate in today's game. And that's just what I think about that. Today's show, Trending in the AM on DSM Media, is brought to you by Jed's Barber Lounge. Check out one of their 2 great locations, Fishtown and Old City. Book your appointment today. They own the craft and it shows, rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area. Able to handle any style cut, adult or kid. Check out some of their great work right here. And we're back here, Trending in the AM on DSM Media. Again, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Make sure you like the show, share it out, retweet it out on all social media platforms. Do me that favor, hit the like and subscribe button. If you want to get interactive with the show, head over to the YouTube page to do that, to drop your comments, your thoughts. If you're watching this on replay, I do go back and check all comments that are made on replays and check them out and respond to you. Or you can hit me up on Twitter with your thoughts on today's show or more topics. If you have a topic you want me to cover and discuss on the show, hit me up on Twitter. We've already talked Sixers today. We've started the Eagles conversation. And this was not originally part of the Eagles conversation, but I want to bring it up. I talked about it, or I brought it up on Twitter. I saw it. I want to bring up the exact tweet here for a second on my Twitter page. Okay. So Jacob Media, who I criticize a lot. Not going to lie. We did the first morning show. Then they came around and started copying the morning show. I set the trends. Everybody else just follows. They've become when they first announced Jacob Media and the names that were working with it. I was excited. It's an alternative to the radio stations. A lot of reputable names working there, but they've just become a hot take, clickbait media organization, just like everybody else. They got that scuzz bucket of Dan Sileo slewing his awful takes all the time. They've even got Dirk Gunn and guys like that who are reputable, slinging hot takes, which is something they've never done. But they had on one of their shows yesterday, they had Sal Paolantonio, the great Sal Paolantonio, on Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, and I don't even remember who the other guy is on the show. And Sal Paolantonio brings up an interesting point that Nick Sirianni yesterday and on Sunday after the game should never have revealed how hurt and injured and sore Jalen Hurts was after the Sunday game. And it got me thinking, and I've already got a whole bunch of back and forth on Twitter on my comment on it, flowing in here. There might be something to that. Should Nick Sirianni have made it out to be as big of a deal as it is. Should he have just said, yeah, he's sore. We'll continue the rehab, whatever. But no, Nick Sirianni comes out and says, no, he's hurting. He's hurting a lot. We knew he wouldn't hurt it anymore, but he's a gamer. He toughed it out. He did what he had to do to help us out. Now he's got 2 weeks to get better and ready for the playoffs. First and foremost, do Nick Sirianni's comments concern you that maybe he's injured more than he's let on? Yes, maybe he can't get hurt anymore, but maybe the injury's a little bit more serious than we think. I think there's a possibility there. 2, Nick Sirianni, there's already a big target on Jalen Hurts' back. They know that he's the leader of this offense and this team. Every leading guy like him, a running quarterback, you get extra shots in on them. There's a big target on him. And now that target just grew tenfold because he's hurt. And the more you hit him, the more it's going to hurt. The more you punch him, well, I don't mean physically punch him. Well, maybe. You get him at the bottom of a pile when he rushes for a first down on 3rd and short, and there's a lot of poking and prodding. People are going to be hitting and banging that shoulder 10 times more now. So maybe not physically punching, but you get what I'm getting at. That's number 2. I don't know, and part 3 of that is if he was so bad off, could we have and should we have played Gardner Minshew and still locked up that number 1 seed? It's a conversation to be had, and I think Nick Sirianni, he doesn't make many mistakes as a coach. In the big picture scheme of things, the way he motivates the team, the way he speaks to the media, he's come so far from that first interview, press conference. He doesn't make many mistakes. He keeps things very close to the vest. He's very smart with his words and what he says. He gives us more than the Andy Reid cliche, I got to put players in a better position to succeed. He gives us more than that. But what he doesn't do is he doesn't make mistakes. And I kind of feel like this comment might have been his first slip up as a head coach. And I'm not sure. Maybe I'm off base a little bit by that. Maybe, I'm going through some of the comments. My man Greg said he did that to direct any criticism away from him for not running his normal game plan against the Giants. Instead, he portrayed him as a warrior who did anything he could on the field to help his teammates. And I think that sounds like a very fair thought process. Very possible. I got my man Flips to Lemke. I don't know, man. He was going to have the target no matter regardless. And that's true. People knew he was banged up. And, of course, my man Brandon Burrows. I'm sure he's not related to the actual Joe Burrows, but maybe he is. Who knows? Fearing the injury is way worse. And I think that's very possible as well. Just some of the comments that are coming in on Twitter there. I'm really curious what everybody else thinks. Was it a slip-up? Should Nick Sirianni have said anything at all? And just left it as simple. He was hurt and banged up before the game. He's still in a process of recovery. And hopefully he'll be closer to 100% next week than he was this past week. I think that's all Nick Sirianni needed to say. And Nick Sirianni may have slipped up a little bit there. And, whether he's more injured than he's let on, or whether the injury got any worse, or the pain level there is just a little higher than it should have been. Jalen Hurts is playing next Sunday, whoever it may be. Tampa Bay, like I predict, he wants that revenge factor, full circle. Getting knocked out last year at 9-8 by the Tampa Bay Bucks, knocking Tampa Bay and Tom Brady out this year. It's a full circle little story there for Jalen Hurts. Great way to, show the improvements on a national stage this year. He's going to play, no matter what. The question is what kind of shape he's going to be in. And that's just something I just don't know. But I think, I really do think that maybe there was a mistake made there. And it is what it is. Can't take it back now. I'm just going to hope and pray that this week that he's getting healthy. As healthy as he can be at this point. That they're doing whatever they can to arrest that shoulder so that the pain come next Sunday is at as low as it possibly can be at this point with the injury. Man, my eyes are dried out like crazy this morning. I don't know about anybody else. All right, so that's the Eagles talk for the day. Now let's get to something else here. Obviously, yesterday I broke down general thoughts. I didn't break down specifically, but I did general thoughts on the NFC playoff brackets and where I think it's going to all fall into place. So let's look at this playoff bracket again, and let's look at the AFC side of it, because I didn't really talk the AFC at all. And like I said, I said yesterday, who's going to play the Eagles in the NFC Championship game? And I came to the conclusion that it's going to be chalk. It's going to be San Fran versus Philly. Um, so the question today is, who's going to play the Eagles in the Super Bowl? Because I am dead set that this Eagles team is making the Super Bowl. I really, truly believe that this team, I know I just talked about Jalen Hurts, maybe he's more banged up, etc. But Jalen Hurts is making the Eagles are making the Super Bowl. I'm going to be heartbroken if they don't. I'm going to cry on this show. Well, maybe not cry, but you get what I'm getting at. So, who is playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl? We're looking at obviously the Chiefs got the bye, and we'll get into a specific game by game. We'll go game by game more in detail on Friday for Football Friday. I believe Jason will be joining the show on Friday. We'll go game by game on Friday. No doubt about it. But let's look at, just generally speaking, this weekend's matchups. You got the Bills at home against the Dolphins. You have the Bengals at home against the Ravens. And the Jaguars, Dougie P's team, against the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I said yesterday that there's going to be no upsets on the NFC side. And I'm looking at this AFC side, and I'm trying to think, can there be an upset? Baltimore against Bengals. Is Lamar Jackson going to be playing? Does Lamar Jackson want to play in Baltimore anymore? Buffalo's going to be playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl, or Buffalo's getting upset, Joe? Sorry, I wasn't sure which one you were answering Buffalo to. I'm assuming you're saying Buffalo plays the Eagles, and it's very possible. I don't think so, but it's very, very possible it's Buffalo in the Super Bowl. And Joe, on a side note, it would be about damn time. Buffalo has now lost to Washington in the Super Bowl, the New York Giants in the Super Bowl, twice to the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. It's about time they lose to the other NFC East team in the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's let them get the full NFC East beatdown in the Super Bowl. Or if the Buffalo Bills beat us in the Super Bowl, I'm sure Cowboys fans would be, see, only team that Buffalo's beat in the Super Bowl is the Philadelphia Eagles. And there'd be that conversation. We have to deal with, those cowgirls out there all the time making those conversations. But that being said, I look at the Ravens game first. Because the Bengals should win that game, no doubt about it. They should. But you got a lot of controversy. Will Lamar play or won't he? They just signed their Smith to a huge 5-year, $100 million deal. Money that they probably should have been given to Lamar Jackson. Who knows what's going on in Baltimore? But if Lamar Jackson plays, Lamar Jackson was offered a $250 million deal in the offseason. He turned it down. He wanted more. That's fine. That's his prerogative to do that. But his season has not gone according to when an athlete bets on themselves. Sometimes it goes in their favor, sometimes it doesn't. It hasn't gone on Lamar's favor this year. What can fix that narrative, very simply, is if Lamar Jackson comes out and balls out, and comes out and upsets the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round of the playoffs. Can you imagine that story? He hasn't played in how many weeks? 4 or 5 weeks now. Comes out in the wild card round and beats the AFC Super Bowl representative of last year in the first round of the playoffs, beats Joe Cool in the playoffs. It's a story. It's a thought process. I think the Bengals are about a 7.5 point favorite at this point. I'm telling you. In my mind, there's a chance that Baltimore, if Lamar Jackson plays and he's close to 100%, I mean, even with Lamar Jackson missing as much time as he did this year, Baltimore still won a lot of games with Hudley and whoever else back there, at quarterback. Is that the upset this week? I don't know. It's funny. The upset that nobody's talking about, the Chargers are actually favored on the road against the Jags. And to me, when you're the higher seed, when you're the lower seed, it's kind of an upset. The Chargers, if they beat the Jaguars, are not considered an upset. So I actually think there's a chance that the Jaguars win this week against the Chargers. I've been pretty adamant in my conversations over the year and a half, that Justin Herbert is just another Phillip Rivers. Can't win the big game. Now, Phillip Rivers got to 1 or 2 AFC championship games, but that's it. Never played in a Super Bowl. Lost a lot of playoff games. Put up a lot of great regular season stats. Not much in the playoffs. Mike Williams is banged up again. Brandon Staley? Yeah, Brandon Staley. Question marks about his coaching all year long. Doug Peterson has got the Jaguars believing. Now, I don't think the Jaguars make a deep run or anything like that, but is it considered an upset if the Jaguars, the home team, beats the Chargers? And I think it is. You got a West Coast team going East Coast. You've got Doug Peterson, all of his playoff experience as a head coach and a player. Super Bowl champion Doug Peterson. Got Trevor Lawrence playing elite football right now. Defense is swarming. Offense is humming on all levels against a team in the Chargers who have failed to. There was about 4 weeks ago, I saw some articles, should Brandon Staley be fired at the end of this year? And I don't disagree with it. I don't. I think we dodged a bullet there. There were a lot of people that thought Brandon Staley should come to Philly instead of Nick Sirianni. And he was part of that group of names that Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, all the names that Eagles fans wanted after Doug Peterson left. He went to San Diego, it was San Diego then, now it's LA Chargers now. I see the Jaguars winning on Sunday. So I see the Chargers. I see the Bengals probably beating the Ravens, but that's going to be a really close game. And then the Bills-Dolphins game, it's another one. It's just like the Ravens-Bengals game. It's kind of hard to actually predict who comes out of the game exactly. Buffalo should win that game no matter what, but right now it's like a double-digit favorite Buffalo Bills team. We don't know if Tua's playing. On the side note, we don't know if Tua should be playing. Honestly, he should not be playing. Obviously. I mean, with the amount of head injuries that he has had. Hold on, I do remember. Wide receiver Charles Johnson last night, suicide, overdose. Another, possible CTE kind of thing. Head injuries in the NFL are getting out of control. And the way these guys, they'll just play through anything because they want to play. You got to protect the players from themselves. And I said that. And I've gotten into it with my man Aaron, who's a Dolphins fan, that if he's healthy, he plays. He's not retiring, so you play him. But giving him the rest of this year off Tua, giving him the whole offseason, that long stretch of just no physical contact to the head, your brain can heal a little bit. And I think it's important. He takes one more bad hit, it might end his career. It might end his life. Who knows? After all that we just saw happen with Damar Hamlin, do we really want to see Tua out there putting his life at risk when he's not 110%? But again, that's the secondary story. The real point is that if he plays, they have a chance against Buffalo. If he doesn't play, I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater's healthy. Skylar Thompson, he's not going to beat Buffalo in the wild card round in Buffalo. I don't know what Buffalo's weather is going to be like, but it's probably going to be cold as hell. In my mind, they need Tua to play to have a chance. But it's going to be Buffalo, obviously. It's just how close of a game it'll be. So in my mind, the Jaguars win. All three home teams win. So that means then you get a great divisional round matchup, the Chiefs and Andy Reid versus the pupil, Doug Peterson, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. That would be a hell of a matchup. Then you get Buffalo, Bengals rematch again. Now, I would say probably, again, I feel crazy saying this. It's just chalk. I'm just picking chalk straight across all my brackets. I got all the home teams winning, and I got the Eagles, 49ers, in the championship games, the 1-2. And the way I basically just laid it out, it's going to be Buffalo Chiefs for a right to play the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Now, I think that's where the Buffalo, there's a lot of destiny and hype because of the Damar Hamlin situation with Buffalo. I think that's where it ends in the championship game. I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are the team that face the Eagles in the Super Bowl. But we've seen crazier things happen. But Buffalo could do it. I know that's who Joe's picking. It's very possible. I just, I know chalk is not the way it works out almost always. But I guess that's kind of how I feel that it is going to work out. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Am I crazy? I don't know. I don't think I'm crazy. So Eagles, Chiefs, Super Bowl. Joe's got Eagles, Bills. Either way, we win because we get our Eagles in the Super Bowl. Either way. It's the way it plays out. That's good. That's what we want. We want our birds in the Super Bowl. We want a great Super Bowl, great matchup. Now, do I think the Eagles can beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? It's a conversation for another day, a detailed conversation for another day. Man, if they make the Super Bowl, can you imagine the conversation on this show every single morning for the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl? Guys, it'll be intense. next week, leading up against whoever we play in the divisional round. It's going to be intense. But we'll see how it goes. Well, I just, yeah, we haven't had this opportunity yet to make a deep run on this show. So if it was exciting as it was during the Phillies run through the World Series doing this show every morning, it's going to be just as exciting if the Eagles can make a deep run here. All right, so that's the end of my Eagles conversation for the day. Got one more small topic. Well, not small, it's a huge topic. It's not even really like a confirmed topic yet. But the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, World Wrestling Federation for you old school people. Rumors around that the WWE has been sold to the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince investment firm. So anybody that follows this show or my Fairway to Heaven Golf Gambling podcast knows how much I'm against the Live Golf Tour because of the Saudi Arabian investment firm, the Crown Prince, and how despicable of people they are, how much bad they've done. I mean, they sports wash is basically what I call it. You know, you cover up all your atrocities by doing great sports things. I'm against it. Now, I am not the big wrestling fan that I used to be. I still occasionally watch it from time to time. I read recaps to know what's going on so that if I turn on a show one day, I know what's happened storyline-wise. I'm just not the passionate fan I used to be. I've got too many other things going on. But I've always been intrigued by the entertainment value of wrestling, whether it's WWE, WCW, TNA, AEW, Ring of Honor, whatever it may be, independent. I have a friend that, used to referee at one of the independent rings. And I used to go out and check and support him. It's always been a fun little hobby and passion of mine. But if this rumor is true, so backtrack for a second. Obviously, earlier this year, late last year, Vince McMahon retired. Amongst all his scandals and his hush money funds that he had been paying off women that he sexually abused or harassed or whatever it may be, former employees, etc. He retired. Kind of was pushed out to an extent. WWE is a publicly traded company, so they were worried about their investors. They got to come up this year with a new TV deal. Their deals with NBC Sports or USA or whoever owns USA. It's coming up. So they got to renegotiate. It's a big TV deal. It's not football big, but it's a big TV deal because they got a lot going on there. So he was forced into retirement, basically. His daughter, Stephanie McMahon, took over. Her husband, Paul Levesque, otherwise known as Triple H, took over as head of creative. Whole change in the thing. And actually, the product has been a little bit better. You got the old man now. It's just like talking about the coaches, wanting the younger coaches, getting the younger people run WWE, have a little bit better of pulse of what people really, truly want. So it's come out in the last week or two that Vince McMahon wanted back on that. He was kind of forced out. It's kind of something like out of a TV show. He was forced out, didn't want to leave, and if he just took a leave of absence, everything would have been fine. He fights, and it was announced yesterday he was back as CEO, chairman of the board. Stephanie McMahon instantly retires. Now it's two kids that he's forced out of the bed. Shane, I know Shane came back for a while in a performer role, but he gave up his ownership stake and his rights to the company 10 years ago, approximately. And now his daughter is doing the same. Gone. Out of here. Now her husband, now how long Triple H will stay, I don't know. But the rumors came out late last night and early this morning that the Saudi Arabians are buying the WWE. I think it's awful. Because if I'm anti-live, if I'm not supporting these people in any of their ventures, that means I can't support this. And they've done a big deal with WWE over the years, bringing pay-per-views or whatever they're called nowadays once or twice a year over to Saudi Arabia, and they pay big money to get. HBK came out of retirement, Undertaker did. They got the governor or whatever he is, Senator Kane, to come out of retirement to do a match. They literally will dump money to get whatever they want, and it's crazy. And it's the people that we watch on a daily and nightly basis. A lot of them are against it. And the WWE always had a policy, if you don't want to go once a year over to Saudi Arabia, that's fine. If you do, we'll give you a bonus. A lot of the top guys are not going to want to be associated with a company that's backed by the Saudi Arabians. Someone like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. I don't even know what their real names are. That's their WWE performer names. Sami Zayn I think he'd be arrested if he stepped foot in Saudi Arabia for the way he's spoken out about their policies and the way they handle themselves. I think he's considered a terrorist over there or something like that. It's crazy. I think it's bad. It's bad for the TV deals. You think USA Network is going to want to put the Saudi-backed company live on the air every Monday night? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of change. If this is true, there's going to be a lot of change coming down the pike for what is one of the greatest entertainment companies of all time. I mean, you think about it. What Vince McMahon and his dad, Vince McMahon Sr., did, taking wrestling and turning it into a mainstream thing. I mean, back in the day, wrestling was big and they sold out arenas and stuff. But you didn't have wrestlers like John Cena and The Rock going off to star in Hollywood Adventures and, multi-billion-dollar, franchises and stuff like that. I mean, the money that has been made and generated because of the business that Vince McMahon and his family have created has kind of changed the whole entire culture. And you're not going to get that. You think John Cena's going to risk his Hollywood career or The Rock's going to risk their Hollywood career by backing these Saudi Arabian-owned company? Probably not. So there's going to be a lot of changes that happen. And there's going to be a lot of eyes like mine that are going to tune out. Now, will I tune into the other networks and the other shows, other companies? I don't know. But I think it's crazy. It's a shame. And the reports are they're going to take it private. It's not going to be a publicly traded company. I checked literally 5 minutes before we went on the air. Their stocks haven't changed at all. So maybe this is just a rumor and it's not really true. Maybe there's not enough evidence yet to prove it. No one's come out and said anything. But it's frustrating because it's something that a lot of people have followed for a long time. And it's going to go away. It's going to be a completely different product within a year. So I just thought I'd bring that up because, again, we've talked about it before, sports washing and what the Saudis do. And we've talked about it many of times on this show and Fairway to Heaven about the Live Golf Tour and how, they just throw money. I don't know how they don't just run out of money eventually, but they got so much and they got so much dirty money. I think it's a shame. Hit me up on Twitter at Beard and Knowledge. Let me know your thoughts on WWE and if this is really going to happen, and if it'll cause you to turn away. It caused me to turn my back on all the golfers that went live. It's going to make me turn my back on this company that I've supported for. I've probably watched my first wrestling event. Well, I used to watch. There was a cartoon back in the late '80s, early '90s. I remember the Junkyard Dog was on it and stuff like they were just wrestlers and it was a cartoon. I've been watching it since the late '80s, early '90s. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But, it's something I wanted to bring attention to. If there's more breaking news on it today, if it's officially made or officially said no, we'll try to talk it a little bit more once we have more details on tomorrow's show. If we get any more details today or whenever we do get more details on this, we will talk about it because I think it's important for us to bring to light the atrocities of Saudi Arabia. Crown Prince, and their investment group. I think it's important for us to not let sports wash happen in our world. So we'll continue to monitor this situation as it happens. We're going to wrap up Trending the AM right there today on DSM Media. Again, like, subscribe, share, follow on all social media platforms, especially YouTube. Please, please, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you already have, take that YouTube channel and share it to all your friends. Be like, this is the best damn sports network in the Philadelphia area. Covering Philadelphia sports. Covering everything. Serious topics, fun topics, side topics, everything. Make sure you do that. Make sure you go back and watch if you want to get involved in my Fairway to Heaven golf, gambling, and fantasy podcast. Myself and Jason Sullivan, we recorded the Sony Open preview last night. Fantasy football isn't the end of the fantasy world. Gambling on football is not the end. There's a lot of money to be made golfing and playing golf or following golf. Sorry. Go check out my show last night. Give it a view. Give it a like. Follow. Maybe put some DraftKings lineups together. Fantasy golf is the greatest 4-day roller coaster you'll ever have. It's not one day like football. It's 4 days of fun. So go check that out as well if you can. Back tomorrow morning with another Trending in the AM. Everybody have a great Wednesday. We'll see you later. And, ring that bell. Let's ring the bells for the Phillies. Brotherly love? I don't know. Joel Embiid's pretty damn good at basketball.
it.